Let's now look at the commodities market with a focus on agriculture. I'm being joined by Damilare Adeshola, research analyst at Financial Derivatives Company. Hello, Dami. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, good afternoon.
Right, we've just finished running a report on the dairy business in Nigeria and some of their challenges. Let's look at some of the dairy companies like Nestle and Cadbury. How would you describe their performances in the stock market?
Well, first of all, there's been a general poor performance in the stock market in Nigeria, and that has been because of the expectations for the full year 2015 earnings. There's been expectation that those earnings are going to drop compared to 2014, and the year. But more specific to dairy companies like Cadbury and Nestle, they have been facing increased financing costs, and that has been particularly because of the forex shortages. And while they can source some of their raw materials from local producers, the local production does not meet the demand, so there has to still be some importation. And because of these forex shortages, the CBN cannot cater to all of their forex demand, so they're going to have to go source for forex elsewhere. And so obviously that increased cost has been pushed to the price, and so that's reduced the demand for some of these dairy products. And so if you look at, for example, during the Valentine period, as opposed to like 1 year ago, where the chocolate shelves will have been cleared, that didn't happen. And so these companies are facing increased inventories because of the demand.
Now, do you also see this affecting jobs in some of these companies?
Not in the immediate run, but if the trend persists and if they are facing losses, then perhaps there will be some redundancy done.
Right. Talking agriculture, let's look at domestic commodities. What's happening to the prices?
In the past few days, prices have actually been increasing, and for products like cocoa, that has been because of the shortage of supply. Really, generally for all of them, for cocoa, for wheat, for corn, and for sugar, it's really been because of the dynamics in the supply and demand. And for cocoa, it's because of the Harmattan wind in the West African countries like Ivory Coast and Ghana that has affected the supply. And then also for the for products like corn and soya, because they are substitutes for crude oil, and because crude oil prices have been increasing, people have moved to substitute because they can be used to, corn and soya can be used to make ethanol and biodiesel, which are substitutes for refined crude. So we find that because of the increased demand for these things, the price of corn and soya has gone up. And the same for sugar and wheat. There has been increased demand. People have renewed their contracts. Countries have renewed their contract, and so there's been increased demand, and these have affected the prices in the last few days.
Now, what's the outlook like for the grains and other agri-commodities, particularly with the El Nino weather phenomenon?
For the short run, the trend is likely to persist. For the year to date, most of them haven't really performed well, especially the soft commodities like cocoa and sugar. They have actually been on the decline, but the grains, which are wheat and corn, have been increasing. And the trend is actually going to persist for the short run, and maybe in the medium term run, like I mentioned, the Harmattan winds, obviously that would reduce because we would move into the wet season and supply would increase, and so that would also help with the price of soft commodities and also for grains.
Right, thank you, Damilare, for your time.
You're welcome.
Right, Damilare Adeshola, research analyst at Financial Derivatives Company. And Moody's Investor Service has downgraded Anglo-American PLC's credit rating by 3 notches to junk status from investment grade, reflecting the difficulty that debt-laden miners are facing in restructuring their operations to strengthen their balance sheets and weather a protracted downturn in commodity prices. Now, the credit ratings agency downgraded Anglo-American to BA3 from Baa3 and maintained a negative outlook on its credit rating given risks associated with executing its restructuring plan and reducing its net debt further if commodity prices stay low for longer or fall further. When we return after the break, we will look at renewable energy business in South Sudan. Do stay with us. Welcome back. And as businesses and consumers begin to work towards change in the aftermath of the historic agreement on climate change, many are concentrating on renewables, especially in Africa. One business focused on finding renewable solutions is Azuri in South Sudan, and it's trying to transform lives there in an affordable way to people in some of the poorest parts of the world.
For families living in rural communities in parts of Africa, being off-grid without access to national grid electricity supplies means that something as simple as reading often has to be confined to daylight hours. Azuri, a British company specializing in solar power, are trying to change that by making the power systems not just available in hard-to-reach parts of the continent, but by making them affordable.
The solar panel, which has been fixed on the roof.
In Renewable, South Sudan, Mawa Joseph works for one of Azuri's local partners, Indigo, which helps distribute the solar power systems. His system has 2 LED lamps that can light his small home as well as charge his phone. Rudimentary services that, according to Azuri's VP for Operations, Kieran Reynolds, are potentially life-changing in this part of the world.
Typically our customers can't afford to buy our systems, but they are spending a disproportionate amount of money on poor lighting solutions such as kerosene and mobile phone charging at home. So our systems are installed for a small fee. They're then paid weekly or fortweekly through a top-up system. If they don't top up, the lights switch off. And then after between 12 and 18 months, the customers can unlock the system and then access the energy for free.
For many choosing these solar power systems, it's the affordability that could be the difference. The system is paid for over a period of time by the user buying top-up cards from local sellers, similar to those used to recharge mobile phones. Once the credit has been added to the solar power system using a text from a mobile phone message, it will allow the solar energy stored in the battery and charged from the solar panels on the roof of a house to power the lights and mobile phone charging station.
Africa represents a very concentrated market for our customers. Essentially, our systems work for off-grid communities. It's not about on-grid, it's not about replacing the grid access, it's about replacing very poor energy solutions such as kerosene and for light and mobile phone charging at market stalls. And so the biggest concentration of off-grid customers is in Africa, and also, coincidentally, so is the best sunlight.
The business focuses on 3 pillars: the product itself, the financing needed to provide systems and recoup money back after a period of time, and the ability to distribute the product to remote parts of Africa. Reynolds and his colleagues are adamant this could be life-changing for users.
So this enables our customers to have clean, bright lighting, it enables their children to study at night, it enables them to have to essentially do things at night, whereas before it was very difficult to do that. It also saves them time because typically customers would walk hours to get their mobile phone charged and would have to wait with it because they fear the batteries will be swapped out or something like that.
Azuri estimates that around 250,000 people are now benefiting from the access to electricity that their system provides.
Royal Dutch Shell, Europe's largest oil company, expects to make robust investments in Brazil's offshore, hoping to quadruple oil and gas output there by the end of the decade. Its chief executive officer spoke in Brazil shortly after Shell's $52 billion takeover of rival BG Group plc, approved in late January, took effect. He said Brazil will be a key area for the Anglo-Dutch company as it focuses its expanded operations in liquefied natural gas and deep water oil production.
The investments that we have in Brazil in the pre-salt to be very resilient and very robust. We haven't given a breakdown on where we will spend what. We never do that, and also not in this particular circumstance. But I would continue to expect that Brazil will attract its fair share of investments, not only this year, but in years to come. But I would expect the pre-salt in Brazil, the break-even price, to be very favorable, probably in the sort of price ranges that we think we're going to see in the course of this year.
And that's it on the program. Thank you for watching and have a good afternoon.